I wouldn't be here were it not for, teachers, professors, mentors.
Everybody, your whole family has a legacy of working hard for you to be here, but then what? I remember being here and wanting to make connections but not knowing how.
They helped me get from not really knowing what I wanted to do to actually graduating and going on and becoming a playwright. And then, the biggest irony is that I come back to UCR as a professor years later.
I attended UC Riverside in 1998, from 1998 to 2000, and then I am back now as a professor.
The faculty members that we have here are award-winning at every level, local, national, international. They challenge us, of course, but to do so in a way that as audiences or readers, we can experience them and interrogate them and challenge ourselves.
I was able to connect with mentors and people who were inspiring and really instrumental in connecting me to different pathways in a potential career.
I think the reason why I do what I do is because I feel like it's my responsibility now in my position to be able to hold the door open the way so many of those professors and counselors and mentors did for me.
Hello everyone, greetings. Thank you. So students, staff, faculty, and friends of the College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences at the University of California, Riverside. We want to start off by saying, welcome to the 2024 State of the College. My name is, woo! Yay! I'm going to try not to trip and do anything awkward while I'm up here. My name is Susie Sharweed. I have the honor of being the Director of Academic Advising and Enrollment Management in CHAZ. Today's gathering will include student performances and a 40-minute presentation by our Dean, Daryl Williams, followed by an opportunity for Q&A. As everyone finds a place to sit and or stand, we ask that you please silence all electronic devices and have your attention here at the main stage. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted on chaz.ucr.edu, along with several reports, photos, and videos. And with the spirit of this beautiful Southern California, very warm October weather, we ask that you please take advantage of the refreshments that we have here for you this afternoon. And before we go any further, it's important to first take a moment to reflect on the UCR land acknowledgement. We at UCR would like to respectfully acknowledge and recognize our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water and air, the Cahuilla, Tongva, Luiseño, and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, this meeting places home to many Indigenous peoples from all over the world, including UCR faculty and staff, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these homelands. So, moving forward, we want to also talk about why we have said yes to CHAZ in our academic and professional lives. To share a little about myself, I said yes to CHAZ over 7 years ago, and it's been an honor to grow in the college as I serve our mission to advance educational attainment and world-class research in inland Southern California. Like some of you, I'm also an immigrant and first-gen graduate who's made a life here in the Inland Empire. I also happen to be a proud UCR parent. My son just graduated last June. So I take enormous pride in supporting the academic opportunities of our students as they walk along their journeys to commencement and far beyond that. To highlight some of our CHAZ students, the Octave Collectors is a new jazz trio made up of Oscar Chilapa, a third-year music major, Jess Macaro, an entomology doctoral student, and Aaron Goodwin, a doctoral student in math. Today they will perform You Go to My Head, composed by Fred Coots, lyrics by Haven Gillespie, and Danger Zone, written by Percy Mayfield. So everyone, please welcome the Octave Collectors.
To my head, and you linger like a haunting refrain, and I find you spinning round in my brain like the bubbles in a glass of champagne. You go to my head like a sip of sparkling burgundy brew, and I find the very mention of you like the kicker in a julep or two. The thrill of the thought that you might give a thought to my plea cast a spell over me. Still I say to myself, get a hold of yourself. Can't you see that it never can be? You go to my head with a smile that makes my temperature rise like a summer with 1,000 Julys. You intoxicate my soul with your eyes, and I'm certain that this heart of mine hasn't a ghost of a chance in this crazy romance. You go to my head. You go to my head. Temperature rise like a summer with 1,000 Julys. You intoxicate my soul with your eyes, and I'm certain that this heart of mine hasn't a ghost of a chance in this crazy romance. You go to my head. You go to my head. Thanks, everyone. We have one more tune for you, and then we have to go. This one's The Danger Zone. That's because I've got a worried mind. You see, the world is in an uproar. The danger zone's everywhere. Everywhere. Just read your paper and you'll see just exactly what keeps worrying me. Yeah, the world is in an uproar. The danger zone is everywhere. My love for the world is like always, for this world is a part of me. That's why I'm so afraid of the progress that's been made toward eternity. Hoping that everything is alright. You know, the world is in an uproar. The danger zone is everywhere. My love for the world is like always, for the world is a part of me. That's why I'm so afraid of the progress that's been made toward eternity. Every morning, noon and night finds me hoping that
Sorry to interrupt the amazing conversations that are happening. We have some more fantastic things to share with you. Now I get the pleasure of introducing Shannon, the 6th-year PhD candidate in developmental psychology who placed first at the Campus 2024 Grad Slam competition. She went on to compete in the system-wide finals in San Francisco and finished 3rd overall. So we will be privileged to hear Shannon's award-winning presentation, Thinking Out Loud, Is Self-Talk a Secret to Success? So everyone, please welcome Shannon Brady.
Okay, Shannon, just take a deep breath and turn around and give them a big old smile. Hi. If you couldn't tell, I was talking to myself. Do you all ever talk to yourselves? Okay, I'm seeing those heads nod. Maybe it's when you're planning what to do later, trying to calm yourself down, or even letting loose a major expletive to blow off some steam. And despite what mainstream media might have us believe, this is actually extremely common. In fact, children do it from a young age without anyone having to teach them how. And using this self-talk is associated with better performance on things like puzzle solving, math problems, motor activity. Athletes are even coached to do it to improve their sports performance. Unfortunately, we see trends where self-talk use starts to go down around the time kids enter school, most likely because people label it as weird or disruptive. In addition, there's almost no work investigating how self-talk might affect emotional experience. And this is significant for child development because kids frequently have their goals obstructed through things like imposed bedtimes, prohibited items, having to wait patiently, and more. And all of these blocked goals can result in feelings of anger or frustration, which again are very common and very normal, but when they get too intense for too long, they can have lasting consequences, like worse academic success and poor peer relationships. So, my dissertation aims to figure out whether self-talk can be effective in managing children's frustrations. How am I doing that, you might ask? I'm making kids mad. I invite children to the lab to participate in a few games, one of which includes a smartphone that's locked in a box. I give kids a set of keys and I tell them that if they can unlock the box, they can play with that smartphone. Seems straightforward, but I'll let you all in on a little secret. The key to that lock is not on the keychain I give them. Children are alone with this frustrating situation for 5 minutes, and during that time, I ask half of them to talk to themselves while the other half don't. Later, using video and heart rate data, I'll be able to see whether the kids who talk to themselves during report feeling better after, show fewer negative emotional expressions, and experience less physiological stress. If self-talk does prove to be effective for managing children's frustrations, it could be a game changer for child development. Instead of viewing it as weird, inappropriate, and something to be stifled, we can instead rebrand it as helpful, natural, and something to be encouraged to help kids help themselves through big feelings. The best part is, it's not just for kids, so the next time you face a challenging situation, try talking yourself through it. You might just find the key to unlocking your own regulatory success. Thank you.
Now, we move on to the next part of the presentation. And we'd like to welcome up Professor of History and the Dean of the College, Daryl Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Good afternoon, buenas tardes to everyone here. My first thanks to Susie and our amazing students for opening things up. My gratitude to the Chaz Marketing, Communications, and Events teams who've pulled everything together this afternoon. And on behalf of the entire college, I give a shout out to the facilities, housekeeping, and catering professionals who've made this time together comfortable and welcoming. So this fall, this very warm fall quarter, is the start of my 4th year as your dean. You might recall I joined the college in late summer 2021 during a global health emergency when our campus was just beginning its bumpy road to in-person activity. We have been through a lot together ever since. Today, our campus is abuzz. We're here, and we still find ourselves, though, anxious about change and about budgets and about our futures. Many of you might share my anxiety about the threats to democratic institutions, scientific truths, and inclusive multiracialism that target our entire academic enterprise. But I nonetheless remain committed to my decision to say yes to Chaz. And I remain firm in my resolve to lead the largest, and I will say the best, college in the entire University of California system. I do invite each of you to begin each day with an affirmation that the state of the college is good. Now, to explore what this good state looks like, I'm going to walk us through some accomplishments and some needs of the three pillars of our college: our students, our staff, and our faculty. And I'm going to close with a brief budget update and a call to action relative to our unique status as a research-intensive and a minority-serving institution. Now, if you recall, we began today with our campus land acknowledgement, which reminds us of our ongoing obligations and opportunities to be mindful stewards of native lands, be they sovereign, ceded, or stolen. And another set of obligations and opportunities to the lands and peoples of inland Southern California, which is also worthy of acknowledgement, is our status as the region's premier Hispanic-serving institution. Today, I will turn on several occasions to highlight how we live out these obligations and opportunities. But before we begin, I'd like to give you a glimpse of what our lives as a Hispanic-serving institution have looked like over the past year. Look on the slide here, you see from counterclockwise, we invited our wonderful Ballet Folklorico de UCR to perform at Highlander Day. Also at Highlander Day, academic advisor Jen Garrison drew from her own disciplinary expertise as well as her bilingual upbringing in Los Angeles to speak to prospective students and their families at a Spanish language breakfast right here. Our Los Highlanders t-shirts have been the hottest fashion statement across campus, shouting out loud and proud that we're linguistic hybrids. And most importantly, we continue to graduate by the thousands California residents who become the next Latina economists and city managers, or tomorrow's playwrights and neuroscientists. We intuitively know that our life as an HSI animates why our students say yes to Chaz. But let's hear directly from those students in a video filmed and edited by recent TFDP graduate, Delmi Castillo.
En la Universidad de UC Riverside hay muchas oportunidades para aprender. Un lugar a donde hay infinitas posibilidades de aprendizaje, no solo en tu carrera y especialidad, sino también en aprendiendo sobre ti mismo.
En UCR yo aprendí que hay una oportunidad para los indocumentados, igualmente que hay oportunidades como los demás.
En UCR yo aprendí que puedo combinar mis pasiones de inglés y en producción de cine.
Un sitio donde puedes encontrar a tu gente, crear conexiones y abrir puertas. Desafiarás tus perspectivas mientras descubriendo profundidades de la comprensión humana.
En UCR yo aprendí que trabajando duro y con la ayuda de mis consejeros académicos puedo lograr lo que quiera en mi futuro.
En UCR yo aprendí cómo empezar mi propio negocio de camarógrafo y cómo navegar el mundo del cine.
En UCR he aprendido cómo desarrollar mis habilidades en el arte, mi creatividad y también cómo construir un portfolio para que me ayude al rato con mi carrera.
En la Universidad de Riverside yo aprendí que hay muchos profesores que también tienen experiencias latinas, que esos mismos profesores tratan de que nuestras voces sean reconocidas en una universidad que es grande.
La experiencia universitaria no se trata solo de lo académico, se trata de crecimiento personal, crear amistades para toda la vida y descubrir tus pasiones. Se trata de aprender no solo de los libros de texto, sino también del rico tapiz de experiencias y perspectivas que te rodean. Aquí somos familia.
Now let's lean in further and let's take a deep dive into the demographics of our undergraduates and why they make this college so special. 37% of last year's undergraduate student body identified as Hispanic or Latino. In Chaz, the percentage tops 46%. Now, under federal law, an institution of higher learning is eligible to be designated as Hispanic serving with an undergraduate population of 25% or more. UCR is obviously a super HSI, and Chaz is a super duper Hispanic serving college. But as you can see from the table here, UCR is also a super duper and a PZ led by Chaz as well. At a combined 30%, we are far above the federal designation threshold of 10%. Now, we have work to do with our Black identified students and must not overlook non-Hispanic white, international, and mixed students. But there's clarity that we're not merely racially or ethnically diverse. Rather, we are a leader in educating the multiracial and multicultural demographics of our state and increasingly of all the United States. And in a political context that seeks to erase the importance of racial and ethnic identifiers in higher education access, we find ourselves in the enviable position of being an institution of choice for all Californians. Now, we also look across all racial and ethnic identifiers. Chaz educates a majority first-generation student body who comes to us with modest family means and little generational wealth. We treat this as our secret sauce, doing the work every day to educate an intellectual class, a workforce, and a citizenry that America needs and deserves. Demographically, our students are living out what other institutions are struggling to achieve, even here in the state of California. And with such a diverse student population here at UCR, and most especially in Chaz, every academic course of study, be it something that might be traditionally defined as Hispanic serving, such as Chicano studies, Spanish linguistics, my own field, Latin American history, or be it fields historically unmarked as Latinx, neuroscience, British literary studies, symphonic orchestra, all flourish within a learning environment that is animated by our HSI standing and the undergraduate demographics that define it. Now, we stare down some challenges, though, in being this super duper HSI that fully embraces its obligations to student success. And here I'm going to shift from a celebration of accomplishment to the work that still needs to be done. We're now in year 3 of making available to each academic unit, degree program I should say, a variety of IR dashboards similar to this. And in the coming months, members of my leadership team will be reviewing with each academic program dashboard, which again is similar to this. Today, let's focus on the aggregated college level and looking specifically at trends in undergraduate retention and graduation. What we see here are respectable and stable trends in retention and graduation. But we're also seeing that we're not trending in the right direction for UC 2030 benchmarks that set a 6-year graduation rate of 90% and the elimination of equity gaps. Our 6-year graduation rate at 75% means that 1/4 of our freshman class does not graduate. And the first and second year retention rates, in the upper right here, or left here I should say, signal that we're losing them early in their studies. The personal and the institutional costs are simply too high. We have the moral obligation and the financial interest to improve these numbers. Each department then has a responsibility to digest, to own, and improve these retention and graduation rates, and to address the underlying equity gaps that will be revealed or will be shown in a little more detail at the departmental level. Kova and Ryan will be looking forward to meeting with each of you and your departments to explore the good work that you're doing to meet these critical benchmarks of student success and the work that still needs to be done. The imperative then is for each of us to meet our students year after year, from welcome week to commencement, in saying yes to Chaz. For our students, saying yes to Chaz is good for their academic training across the liberal arts. For their families, saying yes to Chaz affords the opportunity to proudly declare that our students have graduated from the university ranked #1 in social mobility. For California, saying yes to Chaz is good for economic vitality. And for the college bottom line, saying yes to Chaz stabilizes our finances. Now, across all of these yeses, we must double down on a focus of connecting our academic mission to student success with its central metric of a degree earned. And in support of this effort, I've renewed my direct investment, which is in excess of $300,000 for the current fiscal year, to student success funds distributed to academic degree programs. With such funds, each unit has the resources to partner with the college to develop and deepen connections to recruitment and yield events, such as Highlander Day, to Undergraduate Research Day and other high-impact opportunities, to the Career Center. We have our friends here for the Career Center. And I personally invite each and every one of you to join me at 2025 commencement to connect with Highlander families like these who are just as excited and deeply grateful to Chaz faculty and staff who have helped their child fulfill the family dream of a UC degree. Now I'm going to give you a compelling story about what an individual can do for student success. And here's a special shout out to Carl Craner, Distinguished Professor Emeritus, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. He's at a conference. This longtime member of the philosophy department was the founder of our Law and Society program. And out of retirement, Carl has been gracious enough to continue to teach the Introduction to Law and Society while his home department runs a search in the field of the philosophy of law. Carl is also leading a work group to map up proposals for additional hires and to update the entire Law and Society curriculum. Alongside the Chancellor's Research Fellowship and Phi Beta Kappa, Carl is introducing our students to major figures in the field of legal studies. And because of efforts including Carl's, we just received a generous donation of $50,000 to enhance our partnership with undergraduate education in pre-law advising and to benefit the 1,200 or more UCR students who seek academic preparation for a career in the law. Carl is part of an important effort to deepen our investments in student success. And I ask all of you, or invite all of you, I should say, to join me in thanking him as we look forward to training the next generation of legal scholars and advocates and working professionals. Now, all of this student success requires the hard work, the expertise, and the commitment of staff professionals across the college. So let's take some time to spotlight the critical contributions of our staff, including Kimberly, Jennifer, and Zoe. Ooh. As I've gotten to know Chaz staff, I have been struck by how many of you are Highlanders. So just a show of hands, how many of you have earned a degree from UCR or studying to get a degree from UCR? Ooh. Take Stella Rocha, student academic specialist, and Chaz first, who came to UCR as a first-gen transfer student to go on to earn a 2022 degree in sociology. Like Stella, you and your peers here know the journey from admission to graduation, and you give back through your career choices. So let's hear it for staff and all of our, for Stella and all of our staff alumni. And as we step back to think of all of Chaz staff, we're reminded of one of our strategic goals, and I quote, "To invest in the success of the people who teach, do research, work, learn, and live at UCR." I take this quite seriously, recognizing with some honesty that investments in staff have been insufficient. At last year's State of the College, I called for a task force to help us chart a path that makes meaningful investments in staff and staff satisfaction. That task force has been meeting over the last year and undertook the important work of identifying gaps, needs, and opportunities. And I commend the task force for adopting a strengths-based approach, looking first to the best of us and then identifying what's missing. The task force formulated a strategic approach to its charge, animated by the principles that you'll find here, that they've identified, and you'll also find in the larger report, which has been posted to the CHAS website and is also available, this handy-dandy QR code as well. Many of the task force recommendations are already in motion, especially around hiring. But today, we reflect on some of the recommendations that cannot be met merely by adding more people. What strikes me is the urgent call for more staff has to be balanced by calls for career opportunity, work-life balance, inclusive shared governance that includes staff, and the fundamental respect for all people and positions. So I take these recommendations to heart, and it's my commitment and our mandate to make them real. And consider the investments that are already made. The Staff Appreciation and Recognition Plan, which is better known as the STAR Awards, is back. I know many of you are happy about that. I've approved UCR's most progressive workplace policy that can now be extended to 3 years. I've also approved a $25,000 fund for tuition assistance for professional development of our staff. And I'm asking our AVC of Human Resources, who just stepped away, Alex Nahera, to turn to CHAS to pilot out new initiatives in career pathways and staff retentions. But we cannot lose sight. Headcount, FTE, student-to-staff ratios matter. And I continue to look to the metrics of workload and work type to determine where additional investments will be going in the coming years. Today it is possible to announce my clear intention, I think our clear intention, to grow our staff to 200 FTE. That's about 2 staff for every 3 Senate faculty, or a different metric would be 1 staff member for every 500 undergraduate majors. What seemed necessary but impossible is now tangible, given that our staff investments have yielded since 2021, when I arrived here, an increase in staffing from 163 to 188 as of July 1st, 2024. Additionally, I've already approved 25 career staff and 2 additional contract staff positions to be filled by the beginning of 2025. And as many as you know, we've made significant gains in the academic advisor to student ratio. Total of 200 FTE in our college will make us much better positioned to fulfill our mission across instruction, research, and creative activity. But we can't let the numbers do all the talking. And let's hear from Jay Malyshenko, who was a key member of the task force, he's here as well, about why he says yes to CHAS.
Hi, I'm Jay Malyshenko. I'm the Financial Administrative Officer for the Psychology Department here in CHAS. Come on in, I'll show you around. My day-to-day looks like a lot of financial fun. So that means making sure that we have the funds for everything that we need for our classrooms, for our faculty, for our labs, keeping track of all the grant resources that come in. It's also taking care of all the facilities. So in our department, we have over 50,000 square feet of facilities, including classrooms and laboratories that study happiness. They study all sorts of fun things. We study development, cognitive behavioral neuroscience. We have social personality. My favorite part about my job is seeing how the work that I've done makes an impact, specifically seeing some of the dollars that come through my office and the research that comes out of that. So all of a sudden there'll be a poster on the wall from a faculty member about what they've studied, and there's some really interesting research things that come out. So I remember the other day I was walking by one and there was one that was studying development and it had Pokemon on it. And I'm like, why is there Pokemon on the poster? And they're studying the cognitive memory of adolescents. And like, of course, my adolescent kids love Pokemon. Of course, they're gonna remember all the different Pokemon names. So just seeing things like that, it's like, oh my goodness, that's so interesting and intriguing. And seeing how my job supporting these labs can make a difference in that way is the most exciting part for me. The faculty that I get a chance to work with are the best. They are friendly, they're kind, they collaborate, they work together, and they're so easy to support, especially my chair. Tuppet is amazing at keeping our department going and really pushing things forward in a positive direction. I usually think with a service mindset, so I see my role as helping others, and so I think my biggest reward is seeing when faculty are successful, say getting a grant or teaching in a classroom that we just modified. It's rewarding to see stuff that we've worked on be successful.
Let's transition to our world-class and exceptional faculty. Here center, we have Diamond Bravo. Diamond's crew as well. Assistant Professor of Psychology, Diamond Bravo. Diamond received her BA right here at UCR and returned as faculty in 2019. She now leads the Cultural Resiliency and Motivation Lab and its work to better understand the myriad challenges Latinx students face in becoming healthcare professionals. In a most direct way, Diamond is the embodiment of our highest aspirations, to draw from her own life experience to educate undergraduates today who become the knowledge producers of tomorrow. I want to thank you, Diamond, for your work, and let's all hear it for Diamond. And I see inspiring similarities in Diamond's journey and that of another Chaz scholar who just joined us at the tenured rank. Kelawani Vaughn, Associate Professor of Ethnic Studies, also a UCR graduate whose research engages Pacific Islander and Indigenous feminisms. Previously, Kelawani was a Ford postdoctoral fellow, and I have to give a shout out to my fellow 40 there. And also, she was an assistant professor at the University of Utah. It's a supreme pleasure, really, to welcome Kelawani as a scholar researcher, as a theorist and practitioner, and as a peer. Kelawani had many choices about where her talents would be best optimized, and she chose Chaz. I'm deeply grateful that she said yes to Chaz, alongside many new hires who rebuild and renew our faculty ranks. Here we have Dong-Kyung Kim, who arrived in the same cohort as Kelawani in the Department of Economics. And you can learn more about all of our new faculty from this handy-dandy QR code here. It's important to understand the scale and breadth of recent investments in Senate faculty. The conclusion of my first year in the fall of 2022, 8 new hires arrived. Fall 2023, 14 new hires. Fall 2024, 25 new hires. And for fall 2025, we already have 12 new hires, and there are 10 additional searches which are underway right now. So that's a total of 70 new Senate faculty hires that I have approved and that we will have onboarded in a 4-year period. And I admit it's been a lot of work, and it's also been quite costly for doing this much hiring in that short amount of time. And I want to thank all the faculty and staff for this heroic work of making this a reality and growing our faculty ranks. Yay! I want to thank you. But like staff, faculty are, of course, more than just numbers. And they go about their teaching, and as they go about their teaching and research, they are also animated by origin stories and career aspirations. So let's hear it for and from Nawa Sugiyama, Assistant Professor of Anthropology, who I believe is here somewhere. In this video, Nawa talks about her upbringing in Mexico and her connection of person and place to the Chaz mission.
Teotihuacan is a very close place for me. I was born in Mexico, in Mexico City, when my father was working in a project at the Ciudadela in the Proyecto de Quetzalcoatl. My name itself, Nawa, comes from the Aztec language, Nahuatl. I think there's a sort of comfort that I feel when I'm in this landscape. I get to work in the place that I feel most comfortable with, and it's a special place to be able to work. Buenos dias. Right here, it's building connections with the community and continuing the sort of question asking that we love to do as archaeologists, and integrating new generations of scholars and students, especially UCR students, Mexican students here, and seeing the synergy that is created from bringing these two groups together. Here we are along the Moon Pyramid here in my background, and my field site is sort of on both sides of the Avenue of the Dead here. We're very interested since 2015 when the project started up to understand a little bit more about Teotihuacan's government structure, about the sort of ritual activities that were being held here in this space, what the function of these residential administrative complexes along the avenue were for, and also understanding the collapse of Teotihuacan and any interregional ties that Teotihuacan had with the rest of Mesoamerica. So that's why we're here excavating in the pits. As you can see, it's large scale because we're at Teotihuacan, and we found some very interesting deposits, including some that suggest foreign affairs, relationships with the rest of Mesoamerica, as well as contexts that relate to the final phase of Teotihuacan during the collapse. So we have a lot of burnt context as well. The part that's greatest about archaeology is that it is a never-ending story that you could never conclude. And so you're always asking new questions in new innovative ways. And seeing the students work through their dissertation topics, seeing new students come in and wanting to start new projects with me, that's been like the funnest part, I think, is just getting people to come together and work together at this amazing site. And that's already a good success for me, I think. One that I hope continues for a while longer.
Thank you so much for sharing some of your stories. So we ask, what do we need to do to meet NAWA's aspirations for continued success? Of course, we need to address faculty concerns about visibility, about resourcing, about interdisciplinarity, and about shared governance. So some of the things that need to be attended to, including the retention of CHAZ faculty, the strengthening of the infrastructure of faculty success, particularly in research communication and sponsored research support. We need to create more and better spaces for our faculty to do the research and the creative work that they're here to do. And as Dean, I must partner with the CHAZ Faculty Executive Committee on a variety of topics, including restarting the search and selection process for our named professorships, reimagining the future of graduate studies, and addressing concerns of climate. These are my personal commitments, and I extend the invitation to every faculty member, here and not, to join me in finding solutions to what I believe are surmountable problems and challenges. It's in time to give you some important but brief updates on our budget. As you already know from the Fall 25 budget letter, available for this QR code here, we find ourselves in a period of budgetary constraints. Our job security, our salary increases are solid. The long-term horizons remain promising, provided that we do not lose focus on the drivers of undergraduate enrollment. Yet we still stare down $3 million in cuts this year, and a period of budgetary constraint and carefully managed growth over the next few years. So after that rush of aggressive growth in staff and faculty, we're going to need to slow down in the short term. And then in the immediate term, there is the cut. So in this pie chart, you'll see how I've decided to cover that cut of $3 million. $413,000 will be coming from cash management funds available to us from our subsidies from the President's Postdoctoral Fellowship Program. It's pretty easy. It's easy money to reallocate. Unallocated lottery funds will cover $1.85 million. Now this has been a tough call in that those funds are now not available to go to other worthy projects, but no one is suffering directly or immediately. So one-time adjustment to summer session allocations, which will yield $750,000 in funds that would otherwise be distributed to the units, This is the hardest for me, and that's hardest for us all. But this one-time measure protects our core investments in staff, faculty, and students. It means that no unit level carry forward will be touched. And happily, the summer session revenues can be refreshed, because we have a summer every year, if we set our minds to it. Now, I regret that we cannot hold harmless the academic units who have leaned in on summer session, but their temporary sacrifice is for the good of the whole. And frankly, it's also in their self-interest as we continue to hire for the long term the faculty and staff that these same units rightly seek. Now, you'll soon get firm numbers from the central, as we soon get firm numbers from the Central Budget Office, Cindy's team will provide each unit with its firm number on the amount of its summer session allocation that still remains. In the short term, though, each unit should be carefully looking at and using the carry forward that remains in its hands to cover discretionary needs and cost shares. Budget part's over. As we near the end of today's presentation, I'd like to reflect back on where we began, in celebration of our status as the premier HSI of Southern California. Our campus has enjoyed this designation since 2008, and it's impossible to think of ourselves as anything but a super-duper HSI. But you might be asking, what's new, what's special about this moment in our HSI journey? Does being an HSI enhance our status as an AAU member institution? Now, when we consider that of the current 71 AAU member institutions, only 11 are minority serving, perhaps the legitimate question to ask is, how can you be both minority serving and research intensive? For answers, I direct our attentions to the latest document from UC's Hispanic Serving Institutions Initiative, which is available at this handy-dandy QR code. And this blueprint, which is very fresh, lays out important concepts of servingness and public good as the bedrock for research across the University of California. But it goes further into the necessity to lead in research as a Hispanic-serving research university system. Today, I offer some initial reflections on what Chaz is doing to lead efforts to make the UC a Hispanic-serving research university system. In my vision statement back in 2021, I laid out the necessity to embrace the President's and Chancellor's Postdoctoral Fellowships program. As Dean, I've set out incentives and some aggressive targets to hire President's and Chancellor's Fellows into Senate faculty positions. I thank the units who've stepped up, and I continue to extend the invitation and the expectation that all units will give strong consideration to hiring from the excellent pool of eligible candidates. Today, a special shout out to 6 candidates who are now faculty under the special incentive funding which the Mellon Foundation has provided to the UC's 6 designated HSI campuses, of which we're the lead. These 6 faculty members represent the largest cohort of any of the UCs. These are exceptional faculty. They're placed in our humanities, social science, and interdisciplinary departments. They range in rank from junior to full professor. Their work integrates Latinx, Asian American and African American literatures, Native California histories, faith and gender identity, and the languages of sanctuary right here in the Inland Empire. Some write books about books. Some write original works of fiction or engage in cosplay. Some embrace community activism. One is the president-elect of the Western History Association, and in the many others, we have future leaders of major disciplinary organizations and research initiatives. These are the faces, these are the fields, these are the practices of a leading Hispanic-serving institution, and I'm deeply proud to say they're the faces, fields, and practices of the leading college of a minority-serving AAU member institution. And their work, we find that Chaz is already fulfilling the ambitious goals of servingness, the public good, and research excellence set forth for the UC system. So I'm going to conclude this afternoon with a Chaz alum who has been meeting a call to servingness and public good all of her life. Vera Machado Martinez is a daughter here of the IE, whose Mexican-American family owned a cannery while facing down the daily insults of discrimination. Vera rose up through an education at Colton High School, San Bernardino Valley College, and here at UCR, where she earned graduate degrees in sociology and education. Vera served as president of Fullerton College, California's oldest community college. And I had hoped that Vera would be with us here today, and actually Vera had hoped that she would be with us today, but she's quite literally in the air returning from vacation on the East Coast. But she's here with us in spirit, and in her we see an alum who champions the historical first of first gens who earn a UC degree and go on to lead the region's most vital institutions. Vera is now a philanthropist supporting scholarships at UCR, especially for Latina graduate students and IE natives like herself. Vera tells us a little bit of her own, in her own words, of her journey, and I'm going to quote here. I never felt like I was an insider. Everything was a new venture. I was like a pioneer. None of my family had gone to college. It is my hope that my support will empower future educational leaders to become effective change agents who can successfully respond to the ever-changing student and societal needs for success. I am grateful that Vera sees the opportunities and obligations of an HSI, and I commend her for specific investments in graduate research and researchers here in Chaz. And I think we should all be thankful for her and to her, even in absentia, for saying yes to Chaz, so that others too may say the same. Now, yay! I'm sure she hears us wherever she's flying over the country right now. Aaron Chan, 24, shows us what the culmination of yes to Chaz looks like and feels like. And I invite all of us to share in his joy. I want to thank all of you for your time, for your attention today, and open the floor for your questions. Thank you.
So in the last quarter, students came out to the bell tower to protest the university's investment in the genocide in Gaza. Since then, we've had several emails telling us that basically limiting our ability to speak freely, but we haven't seen any serious commitment from the university to divest. So I'm wondering, firstly, can you speak to whether any of the Chaz budget is invested in the genocide? And secondly, what can Chaz do to ensure that students have the right to free speech and enact their views in humanity?
Thank you, Aaron. Well, we're part of the University of California. So answers are where we are as Chaz is part of the University of California. So I do think we need to think about this from our role within the entire university, and including some of the guidelines about protections of free speech, but also some of the regulations around speech and speech acts, which are part of all of our lives, particularly since the beginning of this academic year. To answer your kind of specific question about Chaz resources, our budget isn't really constructed in that way where we have resources that are invested outside, so that's a little bit different. I mean, I understand what you're kind of larger asking of where the university is, and I do believe there's a task force that's looking into that and has been responsive both to the campus community and also to the foundation, which actually is responsible for investing our foundation funds as well. I do recognize the kind of larger point you're making about the difficult moment that we're all living through here, both about global events, but also have the impact that they have on our campus, on our civil rights and our moral universe, but also in our, I think what you're saying is our response to global events. And that, you know, I'm troubled as you are as well. I do believe that we provide within the college the space for the academic interrogation of that and the academic work that we do, and I think you'll see this across the college in various disciplines and approaches. And then, of course, we're also part of the university, and in that way, we have both freedoms, but also some rules or restrictions about how we behave on university time, on university property.
So you were speaking earlier in your presentation sort of on the investment of new faculty hires, right? One thing that I've noticed through some departments, so I don't have like a statistical analysis on this, but we've seen sort of a greater increase in sort of faculty of teaching, right? So teaching faculty. And I sort of wonder, how do you work out the balance between that? Because there is some limitation when teaching faculty with their time, if they want to like train graduate students, right? They have an increased teaching load. And so how do you sort of balance hiring professors of teaching versus more of the research track? Granted, both are Senate faculty and both have places, but they have different timing availabilities, and there's a risk of, if you overwhelm, let's say, a department with, which I'm not saying has happened, but like if you overwhelm a department with only teaching faculty, that dramatically curtails their research ability to some extent. So how do you balance those when making those hiring decisions from the dean level?
So thank you for that. I actually have some thoughts on this. I know a question of balance is there, and a question of balance is there for any type of faculty hiring. You've balanced across disciplinary fields, methodologies, you balance across rank, and I think you're asking a question about how we balance in our Senate faculty between professors or research professors and professors of teaching. Our professors of teaching, it's a relatively new category, so the question about balance or what ideal balance is, we really don't know. However, I am very much in support of growing our professors of teaching, in part because they're excellent faculty members, and they're excellent in an exact area that we need faculty members to be excellent in: instruction, pedagogy, for their students, the delivery of their own courses, but also for the pedagogical enterprise of the entire college or in any department right now. We have relatively few professors of teaching who are at the mid-career or senior rank right now, because it's just a question of time. But those that we do have are the best of the best. I think there's a couple of them right here. And so, in terms of quality, I have no concern that we are compromising in any way, and I actually think that this is an area where we're turbocharging areas of excellence that all faculty members, Senate faculty members, should be engaged in. Now, I do think the question you're asking, though, is should professors of teaching how should professors of teaching be aligned with graduate instruction or with research? It is part of their portfolio, and it can actually be part of their portfolio, not just in research about pedagogy, but also in research, shall we say, pure research, or even applied research. I do not know what I can imagine what the considerations are. I do not have strong reservations or concerns about professors of teaching being engaged in graduate instruction, both graduate instruction in terms of pedagogy and teaching, but also graduate instruction. So I think that we can see them as also part of our delivery of graduate education and the research and training that goes along with that as well. But to go back to the kind of the numbers issue, I think we're around 20, maybe 20, let's say 20 professors of teaching in our college in a professor head count of 305. Okay, it's not even 10%. But I think it's an excellent question, and I'm calling on every department to have that internal question here. We should be beyond the conversation that professors of teaching somehow are a drain or a drag on our research mission. But that conversation's out there. I think it's misguided. Okay, but I think we also need to figure out where professors of teaching make interventions and make contributions to the variety of different missions that we have, instruction or research, and research professors are in dialogue with that same conversation as well.
So Dean Williams, thank you so much for your commitment to adding new faculty and staff. When looking at the cut for the $3 million, my understanding that's a permanent cut for our budget. So looking forward, what's the plan for revenue then to compensate for that moving forward so that we're not trying to pull from reserves indefinitely?
That's an excellent question, and I lose a lot of sleep about it. All right, so one of the most direct ways we know to address this is to grow our undergraduate population. Psychology, you've been doing heroic work there, so thank you, psychology. But all of us should be involved in that. And it's not just in terms of the total number of students, qualified students we have here, it's also, and we know that as we increase the student credit hour, which sounds very technical, but the scale of our college, if we can increase our student credit hours by average of 0.2, 0.3 credits per quarter, that translates into a fair amount of workload, head count, which translates into dollars. So we can do this with the students that we have. Doing it with the students that we have, and there's some evenness to this, but it also contributes to getting those students closer to graduation in a 6-year time period. For some, it's getting those students to complete their degree, period. So there's an inherent good for the students there, and there's also a financial good for really addressing some of the levers that we have available to us. Some of these levers are available at the kind of undergraduate advising space, and Ryan Kova are doing an excellent job there. I do say, and I know psychology have already, just looking at your numbers, you're in a strong position here. All academic departments now need to be looking at what can take place in their major, where the students are enrolled, to figure out how you can optimize retention, graduation, and of course also admission. We have longer term goals, sponsored research, philanthropy, important. I want to be working on those. There are some of these investments in staff actually go to sponsored research, and I'd like to have more investments in our development operation here. But the returns there are longer term, and you're asking a question about how we're addressing a cut, which is in the now, which I lose sleep over. But no, in all seriousness, so if there are more questions, we certainly can use the time afterward. I do want to thank you for coming out. It's a rather warm day, as you can imagine, as you can see, and spending some time, some of your precious time here. I also want to say that this is the largest turnout we've had for our State of the College in my 4 years now, and I want to mark that. This is in part made possible by the crew here at the barn, who's been wonderful. And it's been possible by folks like Julie and Melanie and Jeff and their student teams, and Matthew doing the video, among others. And I have to say, though it's been hard sometimes, I do wake up every day grateful that I've had this opportunity. And I am glad that I have an opportunity to say yes to Chaz and to invite each of you and thousands of students and new faculty to say that every day and every year. So we're going to end this together this next year. It's going to be, there's some things which I would like a bit of a different position here, but I think we're in a good position here to weather certainly the cut. And we're doing great work here. We're leading this university. We're not just large, we're also the best. And I thank you all for that. Thanks.